One last opportunity stands in front of more than 14 drivers with the one goal of making it to the championship in a race that could live forever in the mind of a playoff field, much like the facility ready to host it. Live from the virtual Myrtle Beach Speedway and over South Carolina, we welcome you to the final regular season race and race number 10 of Season 2 in the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series and the Myrtle Beach 150. Glad to have you back with us on the KBueno Racing Network. We're up atop the broadcast booth here for Myrtle Beach Speedway. My name is Kenneth Bueno. Trials, tribulations, chaos is a good way to describe all of the races we've seen so far in the regular season. Many different winners on tap, and now it all comes down to this, the final opportunity, a final chance for many drivers looking to capture their first ever WORC Dynamo Designs National Series Championship, and everybody else looking to get in, be the hopeful drivers, and potentially get over the hump. That's going to be the biggest conversation topic all night long. We'll start, of course, with our point standings, where things sit after these first 9 races, and our last one going into tonight's event. Clayton Ramstead currently holds the 8th position. This is 8th all the way through 17th. This is the cut line that we're going to be watching all the way throughout tonight's event, and that 4-point buffer between league owner Brayson Collins and Connor Hervilla. You've got rookies, veterans, former champions in the top 10, top 15 of the point standings, and a lot more. But that cut line is where we're really going to see things happen. Also to note, there are drivers not in this race from Myrtle Beach, so that could also change the entire trajectory of the playoff fight. And we do have information that Hayes Booth, Clayton Ramstead, Caden Wright, and Joe Berge will officially lock themselves into the playoffs. They sit 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th in the standings. The top 4 from Gino Merrill all the way down to Josh Patterson already locked themselves into the playoffs for this year. They've got nothing to worry about making this start. But we do not have Joe Berge in this race. We do have Caden Wright, Ramstead, and Hayes Booth in tonight's event. We also don't have guys like Austin Duran, who's one spot below Clayton Ramstead in 9th in the standings. So got to keep an eye on that. The lack of drivers in this field, the shorter field that we have already so far in the registry for Myrtle Beach, it is definitely going to play a very big factor. One big factor that's also going to play a hold in this race is the track, the stage itself for tonight's 150 lap race from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. We head to Myrtle Beach Speedway, located in this Myrtle Beach area, a beautiful part of the Southeast. It opened all the way back in 1958, closed in 2020. So one of those tracks on iRacing that is closed in real life but lives forever in the sim. A very tough one to drive. You'll find 13 degrees of banking in turns 1 through 4. 4 degrees on the front straightaway and only 3 on that back straightaway. We'll talk about the intricacies of this very old and brash track in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and how that is going to be a very big factor when it comes down to who's going to be able to point their way in and how drivers are going to try to be as aggressive as possible for the race victory. Counting down into the final minute of our warm-up session, so we basically already have our qualifying grid. Right now it looks like Timmy Spatz has the top of the charts as for the moment. Spatz, one of those drivers that is relatively high in the point standings going into race number 10. He currently holds the 3rd spot. He's locked into the playoffs, so going to try to go back to the championship for. Other drivers that are already locked in that we did not mention include John Cannizzaro, and of course we said Gino Merrill, Josh Patterson, and Timmy Spatz, your top 4 that are locked in so far for the playoffs. Patterson, one of those drivers that we've talked about all season long, finally got that win at Charlotte Dirt and was able to launch himself high in the point standings, looking for his 2nd ever WORC Dynamo Designs National Series Championship. So breaking into the final 10 seconds of the warm-up session from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and it will be our time to take a look at your starting grid, see exactly where every single driver and your favorite driver will be lining up once the green flag waves in this Myrtle Beach 150. On the grid, it appears to be P1 will go to the driver of the number 03, I believe. We'll see exactly who's going to be at the starting grid, but it will be, we don't have any word on the graphic just yet, but we'll see exactly where drivers are going to start. It looks like Hayes Booth will have control of the starting grid, and Josh Patterson will be alongside in 2nd, or at least we'll see. I believe that's randomized, so we do have an extra bit of time here. We usually don't have this much time. We have qualifying down to the final 5 or so minutes, but it looks like we will have a little bit more time to relish in what we're going to see here for Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. So apologies for that. Apologies for a bit of the confusion. I believe we were going to go straight to the race, but unfortunately that is not the case. Still 4.5 minutes roughly before we get to the drop of the green flag. Let's take a look though at exactly what happened 1 week prior. It was a bigger track. It was a more chaotic one at Atlanta Motor Speedway. The speedway configuration, the super speedway configuration, in fact, that opened back in 2022. This was the opening lap. This was TJ Lair up at the very front of the field, but of course that necessarily would not last for that long. Here was a big scare on the opening laps. This was Garrett White in the 26, a driver who is actually coming into this race not locked in to the playoffs. He's a couple of spots in front of Brayson Collins near that cutoff line. Here's a look at Lucas Lyons sending it 3 wide. Our second scare coming at lap number 10, and that was Hayes Booth in the 03 getting whipped sideways, ended up in the outside wall. He was able to save it, and we stayed green. Then there was a battle for the race lead. Connor Trafari would be a force to be reckoned with early on and would stay like that for the rest of the race. This was a bit of him getting the race lead and a sniff of it before the caution would come out at around lap 21 or so. This was contact with Clayton Ramstead going up the track, and caught up a bunch of other drivers in there as well. You see John Canizaro getting a piece of the damage, and there's Kilowa Hankins making his start on the super speedway. Unfortunately, got cut short. Here's a huge move by Alexander Hyder over to the inside of turn 3 on Connor Trafari. These two would be locked side by side for many laps until another caution would come out. Austin Duran getting split in the middle 3 wide, then got contact with the driver down low and picked up a couple of others in it as well. That's Chase Marsden in the 89, the driver to get into him. TJ Lair, the driver who was actually up at the front of the field, or rather Leif Hicks in the 06. And then you watch a single file train near the tail end of the race. A lot of green flag racing near the end. Then we started to see the battles finally emerged. The 19 of Logan Sui, help from the 69 of Connor Trafari. Both of them were able to make a charge, and then a caution came out. 44 of James Bomar had a very good run going up to this point, was in second against Trafari, then got loose, got into a couple drivers, and Chase Marsden also involved in this as well. Then coming to the final handful of laps, we were questioning how long it would take before a driver behind Trafari would make a move. It didn't take that long. At a turn 2 in the final 5 laps, Alexander Hyder taking 2 other cars with him and shot up to the race lead, and he would not relinquish it ever since that point came across. They went for the white flag. This was a potential move 3 wide. Hayes Booth working through the middle. This was partially in play to how he was able to get into the point standing spot that he is in for tonight's race, but unfortunately none of them were able to break the number 92 of Alexander Hyder, picking up his first career WORC Dynamo Designs National Series win and his first in Atlanta Motor Speedway. And obviously the first time we see a super speedway Atlanta be featured on the schedule. Last time we were at Atlanta Motor Speedway, that was at the old 2008 iRacing scan, and Alexander Hyder becomes yet again another different winner into this series for season number 2. We didn't see that many different winners back when we had season number 1 in play, but season number 2 has definitely been that really different season, and it's mean that for a lot of different ways, and it's definitely been great to see the drivers be able to get to victory lane in so many different ways. Many different first-time winners, and adding their name to what may be an illustrious all-time wins list, and what will mean a lot once we get down to later seasons of this WORC series. So we do have qualifying right now. It looks like Sky McGurk at the top of the chart, so I'm going to correct myself here. Did have a couple of mishaps in the opening minutes, but the 82 of Sky McGurk in the race lead for the moment. At least we'll have the pole when we drop the green flag in this Myrtle Beach 150. And we talk about how Myrtle Beach is so intricately different from a lot of the other short tracks we see on the sim. But one of them obviously is because it's closed in real life, so it is living forever on iRacing.com, which is a great thing to have. You could still drive this track anytime, in any place, or with any car you would like, and you could still have a taste of the Myrtle Beach abrasiveness that it brings here. And I believe we also do have word that Austin Duran in the 55 is going to be a driver inside the point standings. He is just registered, so he's going to be in play for the point standings in the top 14. We're worried that he may not show up, but the 55, who was the driver who, by the way, got the win at Irwindale, a short track that we visited last season, somewhat similar to Myrtle Beach in its very unique nature. So Duran may have a chance to go 2 in a row at these short tracks, but he has yet to put in a qualifying time. It looks like it will stay that way. The timer will tick down to 0. So now, finally now we'll have official confirmation of the starting grid. We'll see exactly where every driver and your favorite driver will be lining up for the Myrtle Beach 150 from the virtual Myrtle Beach Speedway. On pole will be the 82 of Sky McGuirk, and this is potentially a qualifying run that he needs to get into the top 14 in the playoffs. He'll be the first one to see the green flag at a 19.726. He'll have Josh Patterson, a driver on the other end of the spectrum, locked into the playoffs for season number 2. He's going to be on the outside of row number 1. Hayes Booth, by starting this race, he is virtually locked into the playoffs, so a good run here for third place. Still looking for that first career WORC Dynamo Designs National Series win, though. Timmy Spatz, a driver locked into the playoffs, much like Patterson. He'll be on the outside and sharing that row number 2. Clayton Ramstead in the 21 also will lock in via starting tonight. Garrett White is on the bubble. We'll see if the driver who made the Championship 4 last season can get all the way back to the Championship 4, but he needs step number 1, and he'll start from P6. James Bomar in the 44 rounds out your top 7. Julian Balades, a dirt driver in WORC. He will be making his first Dynamo Designs National Series start with a 19.916. He'll be on the outside of that 4th row in P8. Caden Wright from the 97 also locking in by starting tonight. Ryan Zabo in the number 10. He's been up and down through the point standings. We'll see if he can make some miracles happen inside your top 10 in that 10 machine. Dimitri Munjo starts inside P11. Gino Mero will be outside in P number 12. Your points leader going into tonight's race. Ryan Martin will be 13th. Connor Hervilla on the cusp of the cut line. The driver of the number 29, 4 points below the top 14. We'll see what he can do from P14. Henry Clapper and Brayson Collins, a 2-2 lineup in row number 8. Collins at 4 points above Connor Hervilla. Those are the last two to take qualifying time, and it is then followed by Atlanta winner Alexander Hyder, Austin Duran, Paul Granada, and the 980 of Cameron McComb. So we officially have the grid, 20 cars full, and we also do question the worth of point standings now that 20 cars are in this field, and it's not necessarily more than that. Obviously, this is a decent field, but with less points to share, it means that things are going to matter a lot. Those point standings are going to shuffle quite a bit. Sky McGuirk, the driver of the 82, rookie driver who picked up a top 3 in the first race of the season at Daytona. He is 11 points below the cut line. A pole-sitting effort might just be good enough, and it could give him a solid step in the right direction if he wants to get a checkered flag, and most importantly, if he wants to make a run for the championship with those rookie stripes on the back end. Pace truck is down, ready to go green for Myrtle Beach Speedway. The 82 of Sky McGuirk will be the first one to bring us to green, and we're underway in the Myrtle Beach 150. Field and already have a challenge for second. Remember, Patterson got under fire in the first couple of corners by Hayes Booth, who started inside of row number 2. Both of them going side by side, and Booth immediately getting up to that outside wall and almost about tank slapped it out of the second corner. And they are allowing Sky McGuirk in the 82 to run away at the exit turn 4. Still watching this battle as they head for turn 1. A very interesting turn 1 as well. You look at how wide of an entry you need to have. Those little bumps and curbs at the very bottom of the racetrack, and caution flag will come out for the very first time tonight, and it's trouble for Dimitri Munjos in the 60. Munjos 11th in the point standings going into this race, and it looks like some left front damage on the Ford Mustang will bring out our first caution here at lap number 4. We'll see exactly what happened, whether he had some help or whether this was just a single car incident. This is a battle with Gino Mero in the 71. There's Connor Hervilla on the backside, the number 29. Black Rifle Coffee Chevy Camaro. And he clears Mero. There's Hervilla underneath Mero for position. That's a big one going into turn 1, but Hervilla just got a little bit too eager. Munjos didn't clear off the space. Mero had to check it up on the brakes and fortunately was able to get out of harm's way, but the 60 just gets tapped at the wrong place, wrong time. And Munjos goes for a slight spin. A bit of damage there, like we said, on the left front. Doesn't seem to be enough to take him out of this race. And at these short tracks, you can definitely take a beating before the car officially starts to struggle. There's a bit of the contact. And not back it into the outside wall. Great job to hold on to the binders, and Mujo's going to take some early damage repair on pit road. That's going to drop him to dead last and 19th. I believe there also was a driver that qualified for this race. I believe it's Cameron McCone. Actually, no, might have been another driver that unfortunately did not start. We had 20 to register, only 19 on the racetrack. And Munoz looks like will avoid being put a lap down. He'll exit at the right time just before the pace truck gets to him. And so just as quickly as we get the green flag is just as quickly as we get our first yellow, with Sky McGuirk running away from the field. That was a big initial start, though, for both the 82 and the 03. McGuirk, of course, your pole sitter. We mentioned the stakes that he's facing in tonight's event. Then Hayes Booth, a driver who is coming into this race locked into the playoffs, so that gives him a lot of ease, a lot of weight lifted off of his shoulders, so he can try finally to go for his first win, something he's been looking for all year long, but has yet to really complete that check mark. And so we'll see how this fares now that he's going to be on the backside of the 82. So we'll have this rule and WORC Dynamo Design's National Series regulation that if we do get a caution inside the first 5 laps of the race, we'll go single file, but it looks like we may just indeed go double file after all. So the 82 Sky McGuirk will have the inside on the restart. He'll be joined alongside by Hayes Booth in the 03, the Ford Mustang on the outside row number 1. Josh Patterson and Timmy Spatz, 3rd and 4th, going to be inside outside in that second row. So pace truck is down, ready for the green flag at lap number 8 of 150. Still a very long way to go. And Sky McGuirk has been able to run away from the field in that first stint. Can he do it the second time? Green flag back in the air from Myrtle Beach Speedway. Sky McGuirk leading us back to turn 1. A solid jump again for that inside in row number 2 that's going to allow Josh Patterson to peek his nose to the inside of Hayes Booth. Timmy Spatz shooting way up the hill in turn 3 is going to enable 3 wide. Garrett White on the outside going to back out, and the 54 struggling with the rear end of his race car. That's a very big part of the track that you do not want to mess up on. Some rear end right side damage, or rather left side damage on the Chevy Camaro. Now caution flag out again, and it's Caden Reif, Dimitri Munoz in trouble. And Munoz involved in his second caution, Reif involved in his first, lap 9. And Munoz, who had pitted from 19th, stuck in the back of the field, and Caden Reif in the Hornet's Nest. Looks like might have just gotten caught up in this entire field that checked up around the marker where Timmy Spatz went way up the hill in turn 3, and it actually was the 97 getting into the outside wall by his lonesome entering turn 1. It was Paul Granada in the 8 machine who started deep in this field to get around them. That was the 51 machine. We'll officially identify who that might have been for you. I think that's Cameron McCone. Indeed it is, a driver of the 980, repping the mellow yellow colors this evening. There's nowhere he could go on the incident for turn 1. You watch the onboard with McCone. You'll see the trouble, Reif traveling down the track. There's nowhere for the 980 of McCone to go, and then Dimitri Munoz, who was on the backside, also slowing down, tapped the outside wall. But obviously the biggest driver affected by this, Caden Reif in the 97. He's on pit road with a couple of other drivers, including Dimitri Munoz and Gino Mero. So it looks like the 71 picking up damage early. Now this isn't a problem for Caden Reif. He's already locked into this playoffs this season via just starting this race. He's going to have enough points to be in comfortably. But obviously, first 11 laps, you don't want to have any problems happen to you here at this track where it can really beat you up if you have a problem. There's a slight tap in the outside wall. We can sort of accrue that to what happened to the 46 of Ryan Barome earlier this season at Kansas, where it just tapped the wall going into the corner, just unsettles the car, and there's nothing you could do. So the 97 in trouble, getting some damage repair. I don't believe he's fallen a lap down. Actually, will correct myself. Yes, he has. So back to 19th, still on pit road, getting that damage fixed. So we talk about the many details that makes this Myrtle Beach Speedway very different from a lot of the other short tracks on this calendar, or even across the stock car racing, modified, short track calendar, whatever you want to call it. This track has a very distinct personality. Not only do you have a very awkward tri-oval front straightaway where it's somewhat of a kink, and then you enter turn 1 using a same arc at the exit of the front straightaway. You have an interesting turn 1 and 2. You have to enter very high, exit very low. There's a lot of curbs on the bottom end of that racetrack. We'll talk about that white line. You do not want to hit that with the left side tires. And then it completely changes by the time you get to 3 and 4. Different set of corners. There's a wall on the inside instead of just the line with curbing. And then you have just a big challenge on both sides. We'll see exactly how the field travels to turn 1 and 2 with Sky McGurk again at the front of the field. Green flag in the air. Lap number 14. Easier start for Josh Patterson in second. And the first battle you'll see inside your top 3. Timmy Spats, Hayes Booth going at it out of turn 2. It looks like Spats might have tacked the outside wall on the back straightaway, so it clears Hayes Booth for third. Clayton Ramstead still in this fight for fourth. And Garrett White inside your top 5, needing a solid run. The driver who made the championship for 1 season ago and looked like he was going to be the favorite heading into Homestead in Miami. Unfortunately, could not close off the storybook season he had put together. In the 26, a couple of spots, in fact, 1 spot over 14th place Brayson Collins. For the point standings, he's going to need a solid one to get out of here alive. And in contention, caution flag is out again. It looks like some more drivers involved. So 1 car stopped at the exit of turn 4. Will officially identify who that might have been. It looks like Cameron McCone and some others involved in another caution out of turn 4. We'll see exactly if the 980 was directly involved or whether this was somebody else at fault. No, it was actually Ryan Zabot in the 10 machine in front of this. Connor Hervilla was also caught up in the mess. And so the first incident for the number 10 of Zabot, the second one for Hervilla. And this is not what you needed if you were that 29. 4 spots, 4 points below Brayson Collins in the number 5 machine for the last spot in the playoffs. And so Zabot goes for a quick spin, has some heavy front end damage. It looks like he has not taken it to pit road. Dimitri Munoz has. And Zabot not going to go in. That entrance of pit road, by the way, is entrance turn 3. So it's not necessarily near the entrance of turn 4. It's near that back straightaway end where you really make that kink to the left. And then the wall pops up. And then you've got the full pit road to deal with before you exit by the time you get to turn 1. So quick yellows plaguing the start of this Myrtle Beach 150, and it remains Sky McGurk, Josh Patterson, and Hayes Booth, your consistent top 3. It looks like Booth has not really been able to break away from Patterson quite yet. Patterson did a solid job on that restart to not get pounced by Booth and company on the inside row of 3. That was a problem we saw in the first handful of starts, but yet again, nobody could beat the 82 of McGurk, who has held the race lead, and I'm sure he likes to see these yellows come out. You'd rather be in a situation where all you have to do is nail restarts and then wait for a yellow to come out instead of worrying about how the car is going to function, how you're going to drive it over a long green flag run when those tires inevitably fall off at some point. So caution out again, and we will remind you that Beyond the Lights Road to Charlotte is out now. Join Justin and Quentin Haley in a 4-part documentary series as they take on the famed dirt track at Charlotte Motor Speedway. All episodes are available now, and you can visit youtube.com/limeademedia to start watching today. Always appreciate the support that Limeade Media gives this WORC Dynamo Designs National Series. They've sponsored a bunch of cars so far in this season's campaign. It looks like we don't see any cars tentatively outlined in the famed green and white. But Limeade Media, if you haven't watched that series, a great one put together by Limeade Media and all the guys there at that group with Justin and Quentin Haley. A lot of fun to watch, and you can watch it for free on YouTube as well. Green flag back in the air, lap 21 of 150, and once again, Patterson does a solid job of shutting the door on Hayes Booth. Almost had the bumper sent to him entering turn 1, and your top 3 tucked together back to turn 3. And this is big if you're Josh Patterson, but it is not going to matter at all. Caution flag out again, and it's another driver in it. And it looks like Gino Mero in the 71 finds trouble. The driver 17th in the race. Looks like Indeed just found a outside wall spinning at the entrance of turn 3. We'll watch exactly how it happened. This is in a battle with Caden Reif. Looks like Reif just checked up, locked up the left front, and that wheel picked up off the air. We'll see maybe if that was a lockup or maybe if it was something else. On behalf of the 97, we'll watch it entering turns 1 and 2. No problem this time by, but we talk about the differences in turns 1 and 2 versus 3 and 4, and already you can tell the 97's left end is severely lifted off the ground, and Yeah, just locked up the brakes, got into the 71. And Myrtle with nowhere to go, backs into the rear end wall. And your points leader without a rear clip going to take it down for pit road service. We'll see if Myrtle falls a lap down as he currently rides in 17th. He will join Rife, by the way, if he does, as the two drivers 1 lap down or more. We could also tell you the 19th place Julian Valadez, the 38, making his first start in this series. Unfortunately, it has been cut short. He has pulled it behind the wall, 5 laps down and counting. So Sky McGurk, the rookie driver, leading us right now at lap number 24 of 150 in this Myrtle Beach 150. And McGurk, a driver that has been very impressive over the season, but he's dealt with a lot of hurdles, no doubt about it. We talked about the top 3 that he pulled off his first start at Daytona International Speedway this season, race number 1. And then it took him a little while to find his rhythm. We saw lots of great runs out of this 82, some great and some so not. But this 82 still in contention, regardless of the fact of what's happened in the past 9 races. He is still in that marker to get in to the top 14 that'll run for the championship this season. It's 11 points between himself and Connor Hervilla. And then I believe it is around the same mark, 15 points before you get to Brayson Collins. And Collins currently rides in 11th right now. And for Connor Hervilla, he has struggled up to this point. The 29 buried deep in 15th. So Sky McGurk, it won't necessarily be a saving grace if he could win, just based on where Collins and Hervilla, and of course where everybody else above ends up here in this race. But if McGurk can bank on a win, that's exactly all you need to give yourself a lot of momentum. And regardless of the fact if he doesn't make the playoffs, it is still going to be a fantastic race put together. But again, only 26 laps in, 150 laps on tap. We still have a very long way to go, and all of these yellows have prevented us from getting a proper green flag run. And I can imagine some frustrations out of the 0-2 of Josh Patterson, but there may not be that many because he's not going to be in the outside of row number 1 anymore. WORC rules state if we get a caution inside 5 laps of a restart or initial start, we'll go single file for the next restart. Looks like the 0-2 going to be right behind the 82's back bumper by the time we go back to green flag racing. Pace truck is down. McGurk with a late start. It catches the 0-2 off guard. We're back under green from Myrtle Beach Speedway. And now it's all about how the 0-2 of Patterson can get back to the back bumper of Sky McGurk's number 82 car. Hayes Booth not too far behind in 3rd. You want a potential battle inside your top 6. This is Paul Granada, Garrett White. Paul Granada moving from deep in this field in the last couple of positions, now working into the top 10. So a lot of progression to start this race. And now for side-by-side battle inside your top 10. There's Austin Dorn grabbing a bit of the curbing on the inside. James Bomar, the 44 on the outside, back to turn 3. So far, it looks like the only battle on the racetrack, and they have maintained side by side, but Doron's going to get loose in turn 1. He'll get the car sideways. He will save it, and we will stay green. An unbelievable job by the 55 to keep that car righted, but that could have easily been another caution flag. Now it waves officially, and it's a car in trouble in the rear of the field, and it might be. It's your race leader, Sky McGurk in the 82. What has happened here? It was a battle for the lead. As we were watching Doran go sideways in 1 and 2, Patterson found the inside of the 82, just dives it into turn 3. And it's right there where he stacks up with Patterson. And then Hayes Booth could not check up in enough time, gets into the rear bumper of the fellow Ford Mustang, and that brings their pole sitter around. Just a sandwich effect. There's Booth going around, Ramstead getting a piece of the contact. Remember, Ramstead, one of those drivers that making a start tonight is going to immediately lock him into the playoffs. But for McGurk, who needs every last spot, every last point he can get, is going to hurt dearly. Here he is on pit road. There's a couple of other drivers to follow suit. Dimitri Munjos, Connor Hervilla, Ryan Zabot. And then Austin Dorn in the 55, that hotspot Chevrolet, who we saw get sideways in 1 and 2. It was just a matter of circumstance. Same place, same time. We were watching Doran pick up his race car, and all of a sudden, another car was around at the front of the field. We missed that 82, go sideways. And now McGurk going to have to play behind the 8 ball this time by. And that's going to be big for a driver who needs all of those points. And it's only going to hurt that the drivers in the top 4 or so are going to be locked in. Josh Patterson is already in the playoffs. He knows for sure going into this race, he's going to be running for a championship, going to be trying to defend his crown. Hayes Booth, despite not having a win all year long, he's been very consistent starting this race. Immediate lock-in. Clay Ramstead starting this race, immediate lock-in. Timmy Spatz already locked into the playoffs heading into tonight's event. He was 3rd in points going into Myrtle Beach. And then you have Sky McGurk, a driver who's going to be buried deep in the field. He's going to be 15th by the time we get back to Green Flag Racing. And he's going to be joined alongside drivers like Brayson Collins, who's a couple of spots above in P8. Connor Hervilla, a couple of spots above in P12. Austin Duran, who's not locked in, not safe at all by starting this race. And so McGurk, you have to imagine the pressure immediately turned up. And maybe you could say the pressure was already turned up by the time Josh Patterson was getting to him. McGurk felt like probably he could win this race outright. And so the 82 going to have to work his way back up through the field. It looks like we will get the 1 to green signal from the iRacing official pace truck. And so Josh Patterson will have control of the field. Hayes Booth will be 2nd. Clayton Ramstead 3rd. Timmy Spatz in 4th. And Garrett White in the 26th, rounding out your current top 5. Pace truck will make its way down to pit road. The 02 of Patterson will have the outside line when we go back to green. We'll see if Hayes Booth and anybody else can make a case for the red and black Dynamo Designs Toyota Supra. Back under green for Myrtle Beach. Car around. That's Brayson Collins. Got turned as we were getting to green. Caution flag immediately waves as a result. I don't believe anybody else was involved as the 5 skips through the grass. The one thing is for certain, caution flag is out again, lap 35. And it's drama before they can even get to turn 1. Here's a look at how it all started. That's Ryan Martin dialing up the inside of the 5. It's Garrett White that gets into him, washing up the corner. Everybody stacks up. That's Ryan Zabot and Austin Duran getting away on the bottom side of the racetrack. And we'll try and see exactly how it happened again. It looks like the outside, of course, with Patterson at the helm. And a way better run exiting turn 4. He got to the outside of the 26. And just that slight contact merging up the hill spins Collins around. Fortunately, the 5 does not get any more damage as a result. But he will drop in track position. He'll fall to P14, and that puts him in the same mark as Sky McGurk, who's in 15th. Could not make any spots, obviously, with the quick yellow that was just thrown. Once again, we have ourselves another yellow flag, this time with Josh Patterson at the very front. Patterson looking to become the first driver since Dimitri Mundros and the 2nd driver in this season to have 2 wins on the calendar. Dimitri Mundros has been the only driver to do it so far. With Las Vegas and Phoenix, race 2 and race 3, Patterson picked up the win at Charlotte Dirt just 2 weeks prior. And we'll look for his 2nd, and that should be his 3rd career WORC Dynamo Designs National Series win, and that would be his 1st if he can do it, obviously, tonight. That does not come at a dirt track. Volusia and Charlotte Dirt are the only tracks that he's won in this series. And so this would be big for Patterson, who, of course, will look to defend his championship back at Homestead Miami Speedway in mid-March. And so for now, though, he will remain behind the iRacing official pace car, and I believe with this caution flying, we should have a single file restart this time through. Now, I was talking with Brayson Collins before this race started, and we were talking about Julian Valadez making his first start, a driver who is very prominent on the dirt side of WORC. And if you don't know anything about the World Online Racing Championship, this is not the only series that the league runs. They have a Dirt Series Championship. They have a Road Racing Series Championship. Dirt Late Models in that as well. So there's a lot of different disciplines you can take on when you join WORC. Obviously, not every single driver who does the Road Series or does the Dirt Series wants to do the Asphalt Series, which is this, the Xfinity cars on asphalt ovals for the most part, apart from Charlotte Dirt this season. Valadez, one of those drivers, talking with Collins, and I just said that it basically handles like a dirt track. This car does when you're at a short track and the tires fall off. But unfortunately, we haven't really seen the tires fall off as much. We haven't been in a long green flag run. I don't believe we've seen a run past 5 laps go green And so it looks like tires may not be the deciding factor. Maybe they end up in the place a couple of cautions from now. By the time we get to maybe laps 60, 70, 80, or maybe even to 100, that's when the tire wear will matter. But for right now, with cautions waving, you're not using your Goodyear Eagles as much, and they're cooling down as they're getting laps behind the iRacing official pace truck. Green flag back in the air, and a gorgeous start for the 0-2 of Josh Patterson will clear Booth by a couple of car lengths to turn 1. And Booth may have to deal with another threat this time. The 54 of Timmy Spatz got a good restart on the Ford Mustang. They will remain single file as Josh Patterson looks to run away from the field, lap 42. And you're right on board with Hayes Booth and just how much you have to work behind the wheel of this Xfinity Series car at Myrtle Beach. You watch the arc in 1 and 2, just trying to be as low as possible without hitting the curbing on the bottom, then entering turn 3, trying not to hit the wall, not hit the little piece of grass on the bottom of the racetrack, and then slowly but surely planting that throttle to this very awkward front straightaway, and then arcing it back to turn 1. We only saw one driver in trouble on the brakes in that corner, and that was Austin Doran in the 55. That is something that could severely happen to you on old tires, most notably. This car, weight shifts by the time you went to the braking zone, and then your car could easily go sideways, and it could be almost impossible to save it when you have a wall to the inside. Here's a look at Paul Granada trying to work on Garrett White. We saw Granada move into the top 6, this time trying to enter the top 5. So far unsuccessful in his tracks. Granada has not had the most consistent season this year. Granada sporting a beautiful Viper Racing number 8 machine. Was looking to manage himself around White, and unfortunately would drop a couple of car lengths and got loose at a turn 4, so it won't necessarily help his case either. We don't have any side-by-side battles, at least for the moment. The entire field single file. I think they understood that with the cautions coming out, they do not want to be around each other. They'd rather try and get their own rhythm, run their own race, and it looks like we may indeed see our longest green flag run of the night if that ends up being the case. A quartet around your top 15. Brayson Collins on the inside of James Bomar. He'll wash up the track and get into the 44. That's going to clear the doorway for Sky McGurk in the 82, who is back to 15th and has not made any progress since being spun at the entrance of turn 3. It's been a troublesome night so far for McGurk in the rear of the field. And now under fire from the 44, Bomar in that forever launch Chevrolet going to look to the outside. That is a Jeffrey Earnhardt inspired paint scheme. Jeffrey Earnhardt going to run for Alpha Prime Racing this year in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. And Bomar, unlike many, looking to use the outside. Trouble though in front of them. That's Ryan Martin sideways and stopped on the exit of turn 4. Caution out, lap 48. Single car spin puts us under yellow. And Martin, as he was entering turn 3, just gets some help from Dimitri Mundros, who got the run in the middle of the apex. And it just looks like Mundros taps him, and that's well more than enough to send Martin around. Second time we see a harmless spin in turn 3 and 4. The first one, of course, was Sky McGurk, as previously mentioned. Mundros getting into the side of Martin. And Martin goes sideways. Fortunately, everybody else able to get around without a problem. And so the caution is out again. We did mention pit road stops and when we could see the drivers coming in for 4 fresh tires, and it looks like lap 50 will be the marker. Patterson down, Booth and everybody else through the lead pack. Couple of cars are staying out of the track. Look at Timmy Spatz with a beautiful exit on the stop, 13.7, and he exits ahead of Hayes Booth. He'll take second out of pit road, but they will have to get through some traffic in front, and that starts with Paul Granada in the 8 going to stay out on 50 lap old tires. Everybody else with at least 20 laps or better. And so Granada looking to stay out by himself, maybe hoping that some cautions come out, and hopefully he can stay in his track position. It will merge Josh Patterson, the leader, out of pit road to 7th. So now a split decision by most of the field. And we'll see whether that plays a large factor into this race. That is, of course, though, if we stay green. And how long will it take guys like Patterson, Booth, Spatz, all of those guys to catch up to the drivers in the front? It's going to be a matter of conversation. That is a thing we've talked about many times throughout this season. at a lot of the very rough racing surfaces. Auto Club was one of them. Kansas also another. Las Vegas a third. You can possibly add in the Texas Motor Speedway in that list as well. When the tires wear out, you have a big difference in the tire life, and you're going to have the field that are on fresh rubber immediately catch up to the field. But it's a game of discipline in a way. You have to make sure that you get around traffic cleanly, you don't run over any driver on the rear end, and obviously make sure that you can keep your equipment as well as possible by the time you get out of that run back to the front. The last thing you want to do is use up your fresh rubber to pass through traffic and then not have enough by the end of a run if it goes that long, and then you could easily get pounced by the guys behind you who maybe save a little bit better and don't necessarily rush their way through the field. We are going to have a single file restart. Never mind. Take that. We'll have a double file restart with Austin Doran on the bottom and Paul Granada on the top of row number 1. Austin Doran and Cameron McCone, the 10 and the 980, going to be 3rd and 4th. James Bomar in the 44 rounds out your top 5. Sky McGurk we talked about in your top 15. Via him staying out, he has moved up to P6. Pace truck is down. Josh Patterson is off and away. He'll try to cut through the field, but a look at Paul Granada at the very front. Green flag back in the air, lap 54. Granada clears the field back to turn 3. It doesn't look like Austin Doran has that much of an advantage. We'll keep an eye on Patterson, who was mired back in P7. And a car around right in front of him. That was the 44 of James Bomar. He'll save it in the grass, and Hayes Booth goes around. He'll collect Patterson in spats. This is after the caution waves, and more chaos between 3 of the drivers in your top 14 in points. Spats with a heavy amount of front-end damage. The front clip completely torn off. And this yellow might be the biggest at lap 55. And it started with James Bomar. Got a little bit too much of the throttle, exit turn 4, gets the car sideways. That's the initial cause of the yellow, by the way. So that's not dealing with anything that happened in turn 1. And remember, we questioned just how stable the car could be entering that first corner. Just because the weight shifts so dramatically, the car snaps loose. This was the initial checkup. Hayes Booth tried to set it on the inside, and Patterson just got a little too eager. Catches Patterson on the rear end, spats with nowhere to go. And this changes the complexion severely as the 03, the 54, will head down pit road. I don't believe Patterson will come in. Well, it looks like he already is in, so he'll get some damage repair. And remember, no problems for the top 3 in this case. The 02, the 03, and the 54, all of them are virtually locked into the playoffs. It looks like Paul Granada is going to take a trip by himself to the pit lane, so this caution is going to be the breaking point for this Toyota Supra that will hand the lead to Austin Doran. But that is huge. A lot of big drivers taken out near the rear, and it's all because they got put in the mid-pack dealing with the situation of tire split decision. And that's one thing you also have to keep in mind. Discipline is such a big factor in it, but also as well, you can be the unlikely driver in the combo, get caught up in a crash that's not your fault. Somebody makes a mistake in the middle of the field trying to get back up to the front, and then all of a sudden you have this instance, a 3-car pileup, our biggest crash so far here in this Myrtle Beach 150. Caution is out again for Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, but we will take a short break and go side by side. You won't miss any of the coverage here in the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series. We'll have more on the break for the Myrtle Beach 150.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Back live from the virtual Myrtle Beach Speedway for coverage of the Myrtle Beach 150 here for race number 10, the final regular season event of the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series. We were just about to get the green flag, but it was waved off. Austin Doron, Ryan Zabot, your top two once we were getting to the restart. You see the pace truck on the inside getting back onto the racing track, so we'll have at least 2 or so more laps under the yellow before we get back to action here in South Carolina. We've seen a lot of chaos, most notably our recent yellow. That was between Josh Patterson, Timmy Spatz, and Hayes Booth. All three of them, 13th, 14th, and 15th, respectively, out on the racetrack. And they try to get back to the front, where they controlled the race in the first half. Green flag back in the air, and it's the 55 of Austin Doron jumping away to turn 1. Ryan Zabot, Sky McGurk, the driver, second and third, battling for position. And a car around, and that's Garrett White, a different driver involved. He'll stack on the back straightaway. Ryan Martin gets into him, and immediately so. Caution flag waves. Martin stays parked on the back straightaway. Garrett White, 13th in points going into tonight's event. And in trouble he is. And we'll see if he had any help or whether this was just a single car spin. Here's a look at the 26 from above. Entering turn 1, this is a fight with Clayne Ramstead in the 21. And I think there may have been contact between the 21 and the 26. Indeed, there was. Ramstead slides up the track. It is so easy to do that here at Myrtle Beach. And just catches White off guard, sends him sideways, and the 26 backs the left rear into the fence. The 9 of Ryan Martin coming to a complete halt to avoid any more contact. It looks like both of them are going to escape without any severe damage to take them out of this race. But another driver who was very consistent to start backs it into the wall, has a problem, and now we have a completely different look at the front of the field, apart from maybe Sky McGurk in the 82, who led this race from the pole. And still not even halfway in this race. And yet we have another caution flag before we can complete a single lap. We haven't had a run extend maybe more than 5 or 6 laps. We saw that single file train of action bring us our longest green flag run up to this point. But ever since then, a lot of the cautions have been waving, and you can compare it to the last time we were at a very short track. That was at Irwindale, a sort of wild card short track in the middle of season 1. The 55, the driver you're looking at, was the winner of that race. But that race had a lot of green flag action. Everybody was on the outside. There was a lot of chaos for sure. But obviously, Myrtle Beach is a very different beast. It's a lot more of an abrasive track comparative to Irwindale's more smooth asphalt surface. You have a very different build. Irwindale is more shaped like a traditional oval, and this track is definitely not. It's one of the more unique shaped ovals on the calendar. So I guess a myriad of those factors and this rough racing surface and these cars has been a recipe for cautions tonight. And you can see just how it has affected the 55 of Doron. A lot of rear end damage on the right rear. A lot of right side damage, tags to the outside wall, contact with other drivers. Ryan Zabot, who is second right now, had that front end contact by hitting the inside wall. He got caught up in a caution earlier tonight, but just because we've seen so much attrition, that has mattered into this race, and you're seeing guys who have found trouble early on now start to come up to the front. Clayne Ramstead in the 21, he's been sort of around this mix, but you look at Brayson Collins and Cameron McCone. They were deep in this field. Both of them have been involved in cautions this evening, and now here they are with an opportunity at a top 5. That is going to dramatically help Brayson Collins, by the way, in the 5 as he rolls off P6 for this restart. As remember, he is those 4 points above Connor Havrilla for the last spot in the playoff run. Pace truck is down, entrance turn 3, single file restart at the top of the 13 degrees of banking, and it is Austin Doron quicken away to the gas pedal, green flag back in the air, lap 68. Battle inside your top 8, Henry Clapper, Paul Granada, and Granada locks up the left front. It travels him up the racetrack 3 wide. He gets in at Clapper, and Clapper goes hard into the outside wall. We're going to stay green. Clapper keeps it corrected. That is some drama immediately there in turn 3. We've seen multiple times drivers locking up that left front just because it lifts off the ground. It's a very awkward entrance and a very awkward transition of banking. Here's McCone against Clayton Ramstead for 4th. McCone gonna slide it up the track, and here comes Collins, Gino Merrill, and Josh Patterson, 6th, 7th, and 8th. And a huge battle here. Remember, Patterson involved in one of our most recent cautions. He's gonna slide underneath Merrill. This is a potential pass for P7 on the track, and clearing away. Patterson will make himself back known inside the top 7. Look underneath Cameron McCone in the 980, who's been way up top the racetrack the past couple of laps, and that line does not work at Myrtle Beach. The O2 gonna slide to the bottom. He'll clear it away. He'll slide into P6. He'll try to catch Grayson Collins next up on the charts. Might be a battle developing for P2. Sky McGurk on the inside of Ryan Zabot. And quick work there by McGurk. And we've also seen that outside line hasn't necessarily been the best. Maybe the middle, if you pinch the driver down low, is good enough to get you a potential spot, or at least to defend a certain spot. We see Cameron McCone, that outside definitely has not worked. He has plummeted to 10th and will fall outside the top 10. Car around Dimitri Mundros. Caution is out again. And Mundros had been struggling all night long. Mundros, the driver who comes into this race 11th in the point standings. This is really going to hurt. He goes sideways all by his lonesome entering turn 1, the second driver to do so. And just a quick harmless spin. It's not going to bring the Ford Mustang any more damage than he's already picked up. But certainly problems there once more, as we do have drivers on pit road. 2 Chevrolet Camaros, starting with Austin Duran, your former race leader, and Ryan Zabot, who was formerly in second, was under fire from McGurk. Looks like both of them have finally pulled the trigger. They're going to get some fresh tires. And around the halfway mark of this race, they're going to bring in Hayes Booth. Garrett White, looks like Caden Wright from the 97. Cameron McCone, who had struggled on that run. Ryan Martin, Timmy Spatz, and one more driver in it. That is, of course, Dimitri Mundros, the driver involved in our most recent caution. So that will hand the lead back to the 82 of Sky McGurk. Clayton Ramstead and Brayson Collins will round out your top 3. This is, again, big for Sky McGurk. A lot of the attrition has fallen his way, and drivers in front of him heading down pit road. This could be the opportunity he needs if, let's say, Collins falls back a couple of positions, falls back more points with this 19-car field. And just maybe, with the 11 points that Sky McGurk was behind, could potentially be the saving grace if he could capture his first checkered flag in his rookie season. But still another half of this race to go before he can call himself a winner. And still a lot more attrition that could be in play as well. You can also think of some of the mindset changes that you can have as a driver when this race is attrition-filled. You're a driver like a Sky McGurk, or like a Brayson Collins, or like a Cameron McCone getting in trouble early on in the race. If you know that attrition is going to be a factor, you're probably a little more eased off that way. You know that transition of position is going to happen. You're probably going to get back to the front of the field just based on circumstance. And it won't be as dire as, let's say, we were at Kansas, we were in a long green flag run, and you end up in a crash, or you end up in trouble and you drop all the track position. So it looks like with the attrition we've seen tonight, it doesn't matter where you are on the racetrack. You can find your way to the front just based on what happens around you. And Sky McGurk, who started this race from pole, was as far back as 15th in this race, is back where he started on lap number 1 with Clayton Ramstead to his outside this time by for the green flag. Back in the air, lap number 78, the 82 away for turn 1. Brayson Collins, Clayton Ramstead in the fight for second, and Collins going to make quick work to try and catch McGurk this time. And now here comes Gino Merrill. We haven't seen much of the Smart Food Ford Mustang all night long. He'll try to bring Josh Patterson with him. Merrill gets loose out of the 4th corner. He'll open the door for Patterson, who will dodge to the inside. This is for 3rd. Or rather, this is for 4th on the racetrack. And Paul Granada might have a say in this as well. Connor Hervilla, who had been stuck in the back all night long, now up to 7th. And Austin Duran on fresh rubber, weaving his way through the top 10. Right on board with the Hotspot Chevrolet. Duran looking for his 2nd win of the year after the one at Long Beach. He'll look to the outside of Myrtle entering turn 3. Looks like he might have this spot secured with the fresh tire advantage. He'll get to the outside of Paul Granada. He almost forces it 3 wide exit turn 4, and they are tussling for position inside the top 3. Here comes Patterson for the podium. Gonna look on board with Josh Patterson in the 0-2. Finally makes this move happen on the 21 of Ramstead. Patterson eager to get back to the very top position. He'll look to the inside of Brayson Collins. Collins gonna give way, and Patterson is second. And now about a second or so to catch up to Sky McGuirk for the race lead. Here's Austin Duran inside for position. This is for P5 on the track under Paul Granada. It looks like it will be an easy transfer of spots. 55 again on fresh tires, 9 laps on his stint. Everybody else 33 laps or worse for the most part. And Duran might just look for that middle lane or maybe just a crossover out of turn 4. He'll look for it out of the final corner. He won't do it for now. He'll back out for the moment. I think he may try the outside. Indeed he will on the 21 of Ramstead. And as we watch the 0-2 of Josh Patterson try to catch up, about a 4/10 of a second difference between him and your race leader. Duran looking for 2 for 1. He'll travel to 3rd above Brayson Collins out of turn 4. This is huge for Duran, pitted at the right time, and we suddenly end up in our longest green flag run of this Myrtle Beach 150. Have a question in the YouTube chat by our good friend Eli Comerford, one of the OGs of the KBueno Racing Network. He asked, how's it going, Kenneth? Well, it's going good so far. Very chaotic race here for Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, but it has been very entertaining, and we've been eyeing the point standings all race long, and Patterson may just give us our first proper battle for the lead in a couple of laps time. Put up a lap 3/10 better than the driver in front of him. Of course, Patterson does have fresher tires by roughly 21 laps. But again, it is awfully interesting to see the back end of McGuirk's machine. Here's the 82 working the wheel and trying to plant the throttle as quickly as possible. But it is so tough to keep himself ahead of Patterson, who has been arguably the fastest car all night long. And while all this is happening, Austin Duran has been faster for both of them. Inside your top 3, the freshest tires out of anyone in the field, and Duran putting lap after lap, 20 flat. Last time he crossed the start-finish line, your leader set a 20.2 and a 20.1. The 55 is charging, going inside our final 60 laps. And now here comes Patterson. He'll grab the curbing in turns 1 and 2. And had the potential spot at the lead relinquished. Now we'll try again in turns 3 and 4. He'll find the bottom at the exit of the final corner. Josh Patterson looking for the lead and can't quite do it. He'll try again to force his nose in. McGuirk looking to shut the door. Out of turn 2, lap 90. The 0-2 to the inside still. He's been trying so hard, but you question how long it's going to take before Austin Duran gets by both of them, and what type of method does the 55 use for the race lead? Patterson down low, he slides up the track, almost slams into the 82, he'll grab the curb and get loose, and here comes Duran for second. '55 has been putting perfect laps together. He evens out with Sky McGuirk at the line. At a 20.3, Patterson slower at a 20.5. And did Josh Patterson waste every last bit of tire life he could use to get around the 82, and now has to play defense and offense at the exact same time inside 60 laps to go, and Patterson, smart decision, gonna let him by for second before turn 1. And caution flag flies to interrupt our longest green flag run, and it's Paul Granada. In trouble lap 93. We saw Granada as high as the top 5 in tonight's race. Looks like that's Dimitri Mundros, Connor Hervilla, the 29 and 60 going side by side. I believe Granada got some help. We'll just sit and confirm, and yes, the answer is he did get help entering turn 1, or really right before they got there on the front straightaway. You see Dimitros is there. Mundros is there, and Granada just gets a piece of the rear end there as he was trying to brake for turn 1. A miscommunication in the braking zone. We do have drivers on pit road. It starts with your race leader, Sky McGuirk. He'll bring in Josh Patterson and everybody else with him for 4 tires. Looks like a general consensus call. There goes the jacks on the left side of Sky McGuirk's machine. It should go the same for everybody else. They'll skirt out of pit road, and it looks like no change for position inside your top 2. Granada gonna stay out, so with Zabo and Duran. McGuirk and Patterson 1-2 out of pit lane. I think third will be Timmy Spatz with a 42-second stop. He's gonna let everybody by. I think really the true third is Clayton Ramstead in the 21, who came into this race already locked into the playoffs just by starting, making the green flag. And so Austin Duran on the freshest side of tires will be the car up in front, or at least did have the freshest set of tires until you find everybody fourth on back. So Zabo and Granada will stay out with him. And this is going to be interesting here, because if we get more cautions, how will that affect Duran, Zabo, and Granada's strategy? Are they now going to head down a pit road? Looks like it'll be reduced to just 2. Granada going to come in by himself. But how will it change the trajectory for Duran and Zabo? If we end up in a longer green flag run, you can consider the race over for these two in terms of fresh tires and how much tire life they will have at the end of this race and how much they're theoretically going to have to save. But are they banking on more yellows quickly into runs to where they could hold the top 2 spots in this race, keep Sky McGuirk and everybody else at bay, and then at the right moment come in on pit road, then have fresher tires by at least 20 or more laps? That's what happened the last time we saw the 51 in for pit road service, and he could play this game all over again. Remember, Duran looking for his 2nd win of the year. He would be the first since Dimitri Mundros in the 60 to have a win. And Duran, coming into tonight's race, was 9th in the standings, 379 points to his credit. Not necessarily in danger to miss out on the playoffs this season, but if things did go awry, it could easily not go his way. And you bring in drivers like James Bomar, who's not in this race. TJ Lair, who's not in it either. Henry Clappert has a factor in the point standings. He's been running here all night long so far in that 34. So you never know. Questions are always raised, but Duran in a very comfortable spot. We'll see if he can hold the lead for longer than turn 2 on the restart. He will have Ryan Zabo on the inside. Row number 1 pace truck is down. We will complete lap number 98 of 150 inside the final leg of our Myrtle Beach 150. A open jump for the 55 of Duran. Here comes Patterson for 2nd in turn 1. And he had to back out, checked up the 82 of Sky McGuirk, and how about bring in Garrett White in the 26, the whiteout Sim Racing Camaro back in it. Remember, we saw him backed up into the wall on the back straightaway. He is in a factor for the race after all, and Patterson zooming by everybody else will look for Zabo and P2 in turn 1. And some contact near the rear of the field, car around, it's Cameron McCone. Caution is out again, lap 100. Take a look and see exactly what transpired. And the 3rd car to go around in turn 1 by his lonesome. McCone getting sideways before he really gets settled into the corner. We'll watch on board here with the cockpit view. You can see already struggling with the rear end of the car, exiting the 4th corner right here, high up on the revs. Car just weight shifts. And there is nothing McCone could do but just surrender to the spin. That's exactly what he does. Fortunately, everybody gets around without issue. And so now that will potentially affect the pit road decision for the 55 and the 10. This is good news for them. Of course, they're able to hold out a couple of more laps up in front, waste some more time. And it will cool down the tires for Patterson. And create that stop-and-go rhythm that really hurts fresh tire cars in the end. We've seen it happen at many tracks on the calendar, whether it be last season or this season. When you have so many cautions in succession, those fresh tires aren't going to be as fresh anymore when you're in restart after restart. And so for Patterson, was very aggressive at the jump, tried to get underneath Ryan Zabo. This caution saved Zabo's point in P2 because it looked like after that, if he gotten passed by the O2 of Patterson, he could have answered the call to Garrett White, Sky McGuirk, Clayton Ramstead, all those guys behind them. They probably would have made a pass for the lead if not for P2. So while we're under caution, we will remind you that coverage of the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series is brought to you by Dynamo Designs, your one-stop shop for all of your iRacing design needs. They can cater to any style you like and can ensure you will look good on track, starting at just $5 per scheme. You can message Josh Patterson on Facebook at JP Designs or on Discord at Josh Patterson #9212 to get your iRacing scheme today. Not a lot of painters on the sim. Might have a lot of requests after the NASCAR Next Gen remodel update for 2023. The patch that happened today, January 26th, so I know there's going to be some slight tweaks to a lot of Cup Series cars. I know there were also decal changes, most notably on the Chevrolet Camaro. As you can see, the different tail lights used. They had this on the previous iteration of the Xfinity car, went back to a different version. Looks like they have reverted to the original style of tail light, which is reflective of how the actual car, the Chevrolet Camaro, is in real life. So maybe some painters in heavy workloads here by the time we get to the start of the next season. Green flag back in the air. Garrett White charging on the outside. This is for third on the racetrack. He'll make this move on Josh Patterson. They will remain side by side in turn 3 and all trying to catch Zabo and Duran out of turn 4. And Patterson will make it 3 wide, entering turn 1. Zabo gets stuck in the middle. Patterson will back out before they get there. And Garrett White shot out of a cannon. He came out of nowhere. He will remain side by side with Patterson entering turn 3. We saw a side by side battle behind them between Sky McGuirk and Clayton Ramstead. That has since settled through, but the 26 and the 02 still going at it. Patterson down low, turn 1. And it looks like finally he'll break free of the Ryan Zabo wall block. He finally gets by. Garrett White is going to look to follow in the same track. Zabo struggling up top, and it is free range to catch up to Austin Duran. Zabo gets wiggled out of the corner. Travel up the track there, Sky McGuirk working to the inside. And now it's just all a matter of fact how Duran can play the best defense possible, but the defense may come in the form of a caution. James Bomar around in turn 2. It looks like help from Ryan Martin as they were potentially 3 wide. That's Connor Hervilla and the 29, Kane Reif, who has been in all sorts of trouble this evening. And then Bomar, the number 44, just struggled to keep the car straight. Really nothing he could do in that circumstance. And you can see just how much it has damaged this forever lawn Camaro. Front clip torn off, rear end severely bashed in. And of course, obvious choice, going to make the trip down to pit road. And we look to see if Duran does the same. Answer is going to be no. So he's going to hold on these tires for now, entering 40 laps to go. And so with the point standings as it runs right now, Austin Duran is in 9th in the standings going into tonight's race. He should get up a couple of spots with Clayton Ramstead, Caden Reif, Hayes Booth, Joe Berge in front of him. And all the drivers mentioned above either are not here in the case of Joe Berge, and then everybody else behind, Booth, Reif, and Ramstead with tough races up to this point. Ryan Martin has been stuck in the midfield, so he may stay where he relies on in 10th. Dimitri Munoz has had a struggling night. He's gotten into a couple of crashes. He is back in P11 in the standings, so he may drop with James Bomar. Actually, a lot of these guys might even out. Garrett White might be the biggest winner along with Sky McGuirk. And then Connor Hervilla, who had finally made somewhat of a comeback, he is P7, so he might, after all, have a shot into the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series playoffs. He is 1 spot above Brayson Collins in 8th, so that is the closest battle between point standings competitors right now on the track when it comes to that cut line and who's going to get in. So 1 week from tonight, the playoffs will begin from the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. We know we visited Charlotte Dirt a couple of weeks back, but this is the proper Charlotte Motor Speedway Oval in Concord, North Carolina. We'll have that coverage 1 week from tonight on February 2nd, 2023. Same time and same place, 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on the KBueno Racing Network YouTube channel. Going to be a lot of fun when we kick off the playoffs, start to decide who is going to be the favorite for the championship, and And who might get to the end at Homestead of Miami Speedway in mid-March for Austin Doron? He's looking dead in the eye with a second race win. Green flag back in the air as they enter turn one. Patterson with a sluggish start. Car around it. It's Brayson Collins. Paul Granada goes sideways as well. A couple of cars in the outside wall. Now the caution waves. And Collins, who was sitting just behind Connor Hervilla, will have more work to do on the restart as he drops back to P16. Just unfortunate for Collins, the second time that he gets spun on a restart. And it's Hervilla who gets into him. There was a car behind around, and that was Mundros. Not sure whether he got tagged or whether he just lost the car. I think this got Gino Merrill in the 71. Yes, he did. Slid through the grass. Caution flag waved by then. And there's Mundros heading for pit road. As there he is, stuck at the moment. That will bring us under yellow. That will be the saving grace again for the 55 of Austin Doron. Will stay up at the front, and he'll hold off on Josh Patterson's advances for the lead a little longer for the moment. Caution flag is out again from the virtual Myrtle Beach Speedway. We'll see if we can end this race under green or whether the yellows continue to plague the rest of the running from here on out. Don't go anywhere. We've got more coverage for you on the other side of the break right here on the KBueno Racing Network.
You wanted the best. You got them for a breast. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaws! Dirt Racing will be available September 27th. Pre-order your copy today.
.117 laps complete in this Myrtle Beach 150 for the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series in the final regular season race. We're back under green at lap 118. Austin Doron on the older set of tires has been holding out at the front. But how long will it take for Josh Patterson to break through and finally get back to the spot he had been looking for since he got caught up in an accident in turn one? Here he comes out of turn four. Sky McGurk has occupied third. Garrett White and Clayton Ramstead to round out your top five. We've been watching this battle for the lead almost all race in this second half as we approach the final 30 laps from South Carolina, and right on board with the 0-2 of Patterson. Patterson looking down low. We've seen him do this many times on this arc, and many times it hasn't worked. It hasn't really forced the driver up the track. A little bit of a mental game there for Patterson, forcing his way down low, looking like he will go to the inside for a position, and he can force that driver in front to slide up. Think that he's officially making that move. Doron getting loose out of turn four, and that might not help his case. Doron's gonna slide at the entrance of the corner. He'll wash up the track, and that is the perfect opportunity for Josh Patterson to serve to the race lead, lap number 21. And Patterson dives in finally with clean air. It's Sky McGurk's turn to take over second. And Patterson looking to hold out. We have a battle inside your top 10. It's Hayes Booth, Paul Granada for 7th. And Booth with a severely torn up Ford Mustang with clips removed on both the front and the rear. Just trying all that he can to survive. Remember, he's locked into the playoffs, but we know just how much it'll mean to him if he could get a win, and it looks like that might not happen this evening. Sky McGurk looking to exit out of turn 4 with enough momentum to get to the inside of Doron by the time they get to turn 1. And the second time now, almost third time, we see Doron slide at the entrance of the first corner. It is such a tough running into the 13 degrees of banking because it's such a weird transition. You're already turning on the brakes, and this car can immediately unravel out of your hands on the steering wheel. Doron slides up in 3 and 4. There goes Sky McGurk to the inside. Looks like McGurk will take over second. Now his turn to try and catch up to Josh Patterson inside the final 25 laps. They have stacked up everybody all the way back to P6. That is Timmy Spatz, who has picked up some damage, obviously, along the way, but even with the front end severely torn off. The 54, a playoff driver by the time we get to next week's race at Charlotte. Inside your top 6 and just trying to get a consistent finish. It looks like they will all clear single file. White not going to have an opportunity yet on Doron. He'll check up at a turn 2, might look for it on the back straightaway. And can't quite do it, so he'll wait about another lap. But that is pushing Josh Patterson further away from the field. That last time by a 20.039. McGurk with a 20.111. And the lead growing to about a second and a half. And now you wonder what exactly Doron's going to do in this situation. He has now been overwhelmed by a lot of the drivers on fresh tires. So does he wait for a caution to come out to finally bite the bullet and come in? But with the way this Chevrolet has been handling, especially in turn 1, or is he just going to try and hold on as much as he can and hope that the long green flag run will settle everybody else on the fresh rubber around him, and where he can at least stop the bleeding, mitigate all the other problems, and stay ahead of the curve? Looks like Doron is successfully doing that right now, holding out in front of the 21 acclaimed Ramstead, although he's gotten loose a couple of times out of the corners. It's gotten him out of the lead, gotten him out of second, gotten him out of third, but maybe, just maybe, a top 5 might work, and he also could be praying for a yellow flag to come out. And I believe this is the largest lead we've seen all night long, a second and a half between Josh Patterson and Sky McGurk. But also, don't look now, on the battle for second, Garrett White putting in some fast laps, and he might be there before it's all said and done. Battle for fourth heating up. Ramstead finds the inside of Austin Doron. This is for turn 1. With around 20 laps to go for Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And Ramstead going to stay on the bottom. Doron looking to fight hard on the outside. They'll bring in Timmy Spatz, and might also be the saving grace for, or the welcoming grace rather, for Paul Granada, Hayes Booth, those drivers who were both side by side at one point. Gino Myrtle looking to step into the top 8. And he'll look potentially underneath Granada coming out of turn 4. So it might be some of the best battles we're seeing all night long, and it remains door to door between the 21 and the 55. And finally, Ramstead makes his case known. He works to the bottom. He clears the 55 of Doron. Now it's Timmy Spatz's opportunity to go back to the bottom. Look underneath Doron, who has been playing such great defense at the top, regardless of the old tires that he's got. And he's going to clear Spatz out of the back straightaway. So the 55 of Doron in the zone and working hard to keep himself in points-paying position. Meanwhile, Josh Patterson now up to 1.8 seconds and approaching something that we have not talked about all night long, lap traffic. There's a car way ahead of this 02. And I believe it's James Bomar on the number 44. If we can correct that, actually it is James Bomar on the 44 sitting 15th, the last car on the lead lap. And Patterson, who has been the most collected car, the most consistent all race up until this point, will look to the final 15 laps. We'll try to get around Bomar without any issues. We've seen short tracks be a very big breeding ground for lap traffic trouble. And so for Patterson, this race is not over yet. They are still battling inside your top 5. Spatz finding his way back to the bottom of Austin Doron, who gets loose at the exit of turn 4. And now bring in Hayes Booth, Gino Myrtle, Doron loose again, entering turn 1, and he'll save it. It's so tough if you're Austin Doron. Remember, him and Ryan Zabot were on the same strategy at one point. Zabot back in 13th. Doron again gets the car sideways in the corner in turns 1 and 2. Can he save it? Yes, he can. Doron back-righted, but falling back to 8th, and that's the breaking point. We wondered how long it would take. Doron said, I've had enough. He's going to drop back to the field. He's going to pit. He's going to lose a lot of points as a result. But it may just be keeping his car intact to be the main priority, as Josh Patterson will come out of turn 4 and grab the final 12 laps from Myrtle Beach. Bomar gonna wash up in 1 and 2. We'll let the 0-2 by without a problem. Could also see a potential battle for second. We've watched Garrett White keep pace with Sky McGurk that last time by. The 82 a little faster, but the 26 is there. We wonder inside the final 10 laps of this race what Garrett White can do to try and step into second. This should be the race that gets Garrett White comfortably into the playoffs at the end of it. We'll confirm it for you by the time the checkered flag waves. And Sky McGurk doing all that he can. He was in contention for the win. He was leading this race at one point from the pole, and then a second time. And this second place finish, if he falls short to Patterson by 2.5 seconds, it almost is now. It might not be enough to get over the 11-point buffer for Brayson Collins. But of course the questions are in the air, and as a driver there's only so much you could do. But there's a caution out of the racetrack. And there were 2 cars stopped, one of them, Brayson Collins in the 5. That was the 5 of Collins, the 10 of Ryan Zabot. And this was in front of your race leader, Ryan Martin, in this pack as well. There's Austin Doran, who just got the fresh tires on the stop. And as there were 3 wide, the 5 of Collins gets tapped by the 10, nowhere they could go. And despite Collins not fully going around on the track, him being half sideways is well more than enough to cause the yellow. They both locked up the brakes. They avoid any further damage. And this is huge. Leaders are on pit road, starting with Patterson, and Garrett White in the 26 is going to stay out. Patterson and McGurk come in for service with 7 laps to go. And this is going to be huge. Remember, we talked about the struggles that Patterson and company had on fresh tires when they dropped track position. Now you put in less than 6 laps to go, potentially, when we get the restart, maybe 5. And this could be the winning move, staying out for Garrett White in the 26, who had been picking up steam in the second half. Josh Patterson wins the race out of pit road. Out of those that did, he falls to 8th. And the question is, does he have enough time to get back to the front of the field? And can Garrett White hold on? Remember, there's other cars in this mix. Clayne Ramstead in the 21, looking for his first career WORC Dynamo Design's national victory. Timmy Spatz on the same boat. Hayes Booth in that same group as well. He's up to 4th with a severely torn up Ford Mustang. Gino Mero rounding out your top 5. So this changes everything. And the 26 potentially in pursuit for what could be his 6th career WORC Dynamo Design's National Series win. You imagine so much going through the minds of Patterson, McGurk, and company that did come in, because now they're wondering, how on earth are we going to get by this traffic in less than 5 laps? And for Garrett White, the anxiety possibly anticipated at this point. As he will cross the line, the lights will be off on the iRacing official pace truck. Collins and Ryan Zabot will get the wave around. We'll have them double file for a restart with 4 laps to go. An organic restart inside the final 5. If we do get a yellow from here on out, we'll enter green-white checkered circumstances. We'll explain that for you if we get there. But so far, so good. To the checkered flag, Garrett White in the 26-year leader to green. Clayne Ramstead on the inside in 2nd. Timmy Spatz and Hayes Booth 3rd and 4th. Paul Granada to round out your top 5. Green flag back in the air with 4 laps to go from Myrtle Beach. Almost a bit of contact between Mero and some other drivers in turn 1. They're 3 wide in the back of the pack, side by side for 2nd. Booth trying to claw his way to 3rd. And Garrett White looking for 3 laps to go as Patterson slides into 7th. And there's Patterson, 3, almost 4 wide entering turn 1. Paul Granada mired back on the outside. They all make contact. Car sideways. Caution out. It's Henry Clappert in the 34. And now we will enter overtime for the first time this evening. It was a matter of time before a caution was going to come out with the amount of cars packed in together on a restart inside this many laps to go. That's Dimitri Mundros on the inside of Clappert. Doran looking to the inside. They sandwich together, and the 34 goes sideways. He's able to save it. But, of course, much like we saw with the caution with the 5 car of Collins, being roughly 45 degrees sideways is well more than enough for iRacing to consider that a yellow flag. And we'll have a restart with 2 laps to go, and that is not what you want to see if you're Josh Patterson, who only picked up roughly 2 spots since the drop of the green on that restart. He's up to 5th. And look at the driver back in P2. Hayes Booth in the 03. You can talk about resilience. Well, this is easily the prime example. The 03 of Hayes Booth. Look at the car and how severely beat up it is. Front end torn off. Rear end torn off. Car beaten and battered, but not broken. And Booth with an opportunity at a race win. You think about the tire set that these guys have. It's 2 laps fresher for the 03 of Booth. So despite this car looking like it came right out of the modified trailer, the 03 of Booth with an opportunity to grab his first career win here and now. And the final 2 laps will explain how the green-white checkered effort will go for you. We do have a couple of attempts to get this race finished under green. We'll have a restart double file within 2 laps to go. We'll try to end that race. If the leader does get to the white flag and a caution does not come out, we'll race it all the way to the finish from there. However, if a caution does raise before the leader gets to the line for the white flag, we will rack them up and do it all over again. I believe we do have at least 3, or if not unlimited, attempts at a green-white checkered to finish this race. So we can go all night if we have to. And we will extend this race past the 150 lap mark. We'll try to end it around, I believe, lap 155. So we should expect lights out on the iRacing official pace truck this time, with the 26 of White looking for what could be his 3rd short track win of his career. Got his first at the Bristol Motor Speedway. That was also his first career win in this series. Then went 2 in a row, got the win at Iowa. And then his other wins consist of a super speedway and 2 1.5-mile tracks. He's been an overall threat. But so has Hayes Booth, the driver who has yet to find victory lane this season. And now with lights out on the pace truck, Booth could get his first overall at a short track. Garrett White could get his 6th, his 3rd, at tracks 1 mile or below. White Booth, row number 1. Timmy Spatz, Clayton Ramstead, 3rd and 4th. Paul Granada, your top 5. Josh Patterson in P6. Gino Merrill, Sky McGurk, Ryan Martin, and Cameron McCone to round out your top 10. First attempt at a green-white checkered. Can we end this under green? They're already 3 wide. Back in the air. Green flag from Myrtle Beach. There's Patterson bullying his way to 3rd. Finds a way under Ramstead. Finds a way under Spatz. He clears himself back to the back straightaway. Here comes Booth with a chance at the 26 in turn 3. And the 26 of White will find the white flag. Spatz goes around with a caution wave. No, it will not. Yes, it will. And we'll have another attempt. Unbelievable set of circumstances. We're under caution once more. And it looked like possibly Cameron McCone. Middle of this group. This is near the rear of the field, 3 wide. This is with Brayson Collins. We'll see if he has a better look at the front of the field. That's Timmy Spatz, by the way, going sideways. He gets slammed by the 10 of Ryan Zabot. Like I say, just simple contact with Clayton Ramstead in turn 3. Ramstead dives down low. He slides up the track. Spatz is there by the time they make contact, and Spatz is around, and that's the worst possible place to go around in the middle of the field. Zabot gets into him. Kane Reif gets a piece, and Kane Rife has not been able to catch a break. We know that he just had to start this race to be considered part of the top 14 in the playoffs. But obviously, he would not want his last regular season race to go this way with all the momentum that he has to build by the time we get to Charlotte 1 week from tonight. So under caution again. We'll extend this race a couple of more laps. And this was a good caution in terms of timing for the 0-2 of Josh Patterson, just because he had found his way to third, found a way to get 3 wide in the entrance of turn 1. Got a couple of spots in the span of less than a corner width. And the 0-2 with a chance to be on the inside of row number 1. When we go back to green flag racing, they have now reduced it to 1 to green. Austin Doran trying to prevent being put a lap down. I think he will, though, as he has fallen back to P15 on the racetrack. I think he will stay on the lead lap, so got a lucky break there as the pace truck was going by. We're doubled up, ready for a restart. Gonna try to go once more with 2 laps to go, final handful of miles from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. It has been a tough race for everybody involved. Garrett White looking to have a rewarding finish at the end of all of it. Green flag will come out, exit turn 4, 2 laps to go. We'll try it one more time. Josh Patterson holding no prisoners, taking no prisoners, and a car around. That's Henry Clapper. Caution out again. Another car involved. It looks to be Paul Granada. 1 lap down in 16th. He's around, and rear end is torn off. Splitter is off the race car as well. On board from Connor Hervilla. Really all started with Henry Clapper in the 34, and then Granada just comes sailing in. Not sure exactly how that all happened, but Granada just lost the race car. I think was trying his best to walk the car. The exit of the corner. He goes wide purposely. Entrance turn 1. Watch him here in the 8 car. And it goes way wide on purpose. And tries to get a huge run on everybody else and catches a bit of the apron, goes sideways. Backs it into the outside wall. The biggest concern, though, was for Henry Clapper. 2nd time in a row, he goes sideways. And look at them, almost 4 wide in the entrance of the corner. That's Collins making it middle 3. Bormar on the outside. McCone slides up the track, and that is what spells danger for Clapper, who goes around again, and it looks like we have ourselves a finish. Race is considered over. Garrett White has been burning it down for at least the past couple of seconds, and the 26 officially confirmed as their race winner in the Myrtle Beach 150. 6th career victory for the 26 of White. It looked like we had those attempts to finish this race under green. Unfortunately, it was all exhausted at the end, and Garrett White finds a way to victory under the caution flag. And Hayes Booth, Josh Patterson falling just short. They'll end up 2nd and 3rd at the end of tonight's race here from the famed short track that lives on forever. We'll look at our full official results. Garrett White, your race winner, 6th career victory, and his 2nd of the season. That is huge for Garrett White. He becomes the first multi-time winner since Dimitri Munoz back in race number 2 and race number 3. Josh Patterson just short of the checkered flag with the fastest car all night long. Still ends up with a podium end result. Hayes Booth should keep him alive in the top 14 for point standings. He is 3rd at the end of the night's race. Clayton Ramstead ends up in P4. Sky McGurk, the final driver to round out your top 5. Then goes Ryan Martin, Gino Mero, Cameron McCone, Brayson Collins in 9th, and the 34 of Henry Clapper. Despite those 2 spins, he's the last driver inside your top 10. James Bomar struggled all night long. He's on the lead lap, though, in 11th. Ryan Zabot, same deal for him. He falls to 12th. Connor Hervilla, we'll see where he ends up in all of this, as he was 4 points below the cut line going into this event. He is 13th. Austin Duran had so much pace in the first half of the event, and he's in part of the second half, but he falls to 14th. Paul Granada is the last driver inside your top 15. Timmy Spatz is 16th. Dimitri Munoz is 17th. Caden Rife, Julian Balades, and it looked like last driver, the number 83. All of them, that's rather the 92 of Alexander Hyder, did register, but unfortunately did not make the race. So it's our time to talk with your race winner, the driver who ends up victorious after all green-white checkered attempts have been exhausted, and it's a return to victory lane for Garrett White in the 26. Your first win since Kansas, but Garrett, what happened there in this second half? It felt like you were hanging around the top 5 all race long, but you turned on the Jets here in this last stint.
It's been a while since I've talked to you, but glad to be back in victory lane. Really, that last caution before the green-white checkers, I saw Josh and Sky pit, and I already, decided to go ahead and stay out. There was little laps left, but stayed out, survived until the last caution before the green-white checkered, and then throughout the green-white checkers, just getting good starts. And I was keeping an eye on Josh Patterson the entire way through each one of those green-white checkers just to see his progression. And I thought before we raced, it was unlimited green-white checkered. So when that last one came out, I didn't even know I won. I was like, he's going to get me. But we were able to survive, and it's good to be back in victory lane.
A huge win for you as you stay out in front, and obviously just said the reason why you stayed out while Patterson, Sky McGurk, and a lot of the other drivers came in, ultimately created the most pivotal call of the race. But we'll talk about attrition a lot. There are a lot of cautions in tonight's event. Obviously a short track, there were some expectations, but for you, how were you able to manage around that?
Yeah, it's all about surviving, especially at a track like this. And we caught trouble in the middle of the race and got spun around, and I thought that was kind of our race because I thought somebody would have ran into us. But props to everybody avoiding me, and then just methodically working my way back up to the front, and then being there when it mattered most.
So now with this win, of course, it looked like even then with a solid finish, you were going to be a part of the playoffs. You're now officially confirmed part of the run for the championship in season 2 of this series. You made it all the way to the championship 4. Last time we had a playoffs in this series. What are we expecting from driver number 26 by the time we start the playoffs at Charlotte?
Oh yeah, just try to do the exact same thing we did last season. We really came on strong through the playoffs, so hopefully this is a good start to come for us, and we'll see how it goes. We won Charlotte and then Bristol, which is in the first round, so I think we're in pretty good shape.
Big win and a big playoff position in 1 week time for you, Garrett White. Congratulations on the win. Before we let you go, though, from Myrtle Beach Victory Lane, is there anybody you'd just like to shout out or thank for tonight's finish?
Yeah, I just want to thank all the drivers for Whiteout Sim Racing, and onto the playoffs, and let's get it done.
Playoff bound, the 26th, Garrett White, thank you so much for taking some time to talk with us on behalf of all of us at the KBueno Racing Network. Once again, congratulations on the win here from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. We'll see you in the playoffs 1 week from tonight at Charlotte.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Kenneth.
Exhilarating win for Garrett White in the number 26, 6th career WORC Dynamo Designs National Series victory, and he continues to put in that buffer between himself and second place on the all-time wins list. A driver who is trying to get his 3rd career victory, his first that is not at a short track, comes up just short in this pursuit for Josh Patterson. But Josh, I imagine so much pace behind your driver and behind yourself and behind this race car all night long, and it felt like there was something different that you had discipline-wise at this track versus everybody else. What seemed to be the magic for you tonight?
I don't know. The first thing I just got to say congrats to Garrett, but I am beyond frustrated right now that I couldn't come out with that one. I felt like we definitely had the dominant car today. And, if any of those green flag, your green, white checkers or anything coming to the end there went green, I think I would have been able to pick it up. It's just, I got unlucky at every possible chance, and nothing really worked out at the end. But I feel like I was able to get a couple laps of practice, which is something I don't really do. And I was talking to a buddy of mine, John Kenneth, and he was comparing me to Henry Clapham, saying that I'm not fast. So I decided I wanted to prove him wrong, and I feel like I did. I was able to do that this race. So yeah, I feel like I was just able to get down to the corner steeper than anyone else. I feel like I was able to take a bit more of a closer line and kind of just wait on the throttle a little more. I feel like there were people pushing it and getting loose and stuff like that. But yeah, just didn't work out in our favor today.
Did you feel like the abundance of cautions, especially near the end of the race, really hindered your path to the front?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, on one hand, you can say that the cautions helped because I was able to close up to the field and be right there at all times. But on the other, I felt like whenever I was able to get a run, it would just bring out a caution and it would hurt me. I think there was maybe 4 or 5 times where I was like either in the process of a pass or actually in front of somebody, and the caution came out and put me back behind them. I know it's like, I think on the first green white checkered, I was actually in front of Timmy, but it put me behind him, and I would have been able to be forward, which in that scenario I would have won. But I don't know. It's unfortunate that we couldn't get enough guys to be able to figure out the track tonight, and brought so many yellows.
I know the bad news is that you were not able to get the win this evening from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. But the good news is you're already locked into the playoffs. You were locked from last week. So now moving into Charlotte Motor Speedway, the first race of the round of 14, what's your mindset looking like specifically?
I think I definitely have some momentum. I mean, over the last three real races, I've been second, first, and second. At Super Speedway, I was 10th, so not even a bad finish there. So I think we've got some good momentum. I think I want to try to do the same thing as last year and just kind of get through the rounds, kind of keep consistent top 5, top 10 finishes, and hopefully get to the Final 4 again and wrap it up there.
Well, before we let you go, Josh, on this second place finish in the Myrtle Beach 150, anybody else in particular you'd like to thank for tonight's run?
I got to thank everybody at Dynamo Racing Network. Dynamo Designs, Limeade Media themselves, Patriot Clutches, Belfour Property Restorations, Vulture Racing Engines, the Keystone Corner, EVC Automotive. I got to thank you for coming out tonight to broadcast. Apologize for the less than good performance that our put on tonight. And I got to thank Racing for the league.
Well, it's all good, Josh. Congratulations on the second place finish. On behalf of all of us at the KBueno Racing Network, welcome back to the playoffs for this season. We'll see you at Charlotte next week.
All right, thanks a lot, Kenneth. See you soon.
That's Josh Patterson, just short of the race win, but we do know he's going to be back in contention to try and defend his crown. A very big storyline heading into the first race of the playoffs at Charlotte in 1 week time. Well, we talk about just short of the race win. We talk about a driver who had been in there all race long, but how about a story of resilience for the driver of the 03, Hayes Booth? You end up rounding out your top 3 tonight here at Myrtle Beach. I know this race definitely tried you more than any of the other drivers in this podium. You were beaten, you were battered, you were involved in accidents, but somehow you find a way back. How were you able to do that, number one?
By the grace of God, man, that was a that was a tough race. It started off good. We got up to second. Had that situation with Sky happen, which was kind of a racing deal. I don't know if there was netcode involved in that or what, but I hate that for him. And I think I'm not sure I don't think the points are official yet, but Sky might have barely missed the playoffs. So if that's the case, I hate it for him. But yeah, the race started off good, and then I made a stupid move when me and Josh and a few other guys decided to pit for fresh tires. I made a stupid move. I saw a car spin in front of us, and I knew the caution was about to come out. So I got greedy, and I was going to be late on the brakes to try to get by Josh before the caution, and I ended up locking him up and wheel hopping and spun it, and it ended up wrecking myself, him, and I think it was Garrett or whoever it was. So yeah, first of all, I apologize to you guys for that. My bad. I am really glad we were able to come back to get good finishes, though. It was definitely a tough race from that point up until towards the end there, but glad we could manage a P3 here. Feels pretty good.
P3 here, very consistent finish, and now you're entering the playoffs, third in the point standings. You have an opportunity at a championship, or at least a run for it in your very first full-time effort here, at least when it comes to the point standings is concerned. So what has that been like to now be a part of the playoffs, and what's your expectation for Charlotte in the first race of the playoffs?
It feels pretty good. This season, it's had its ups and downs, but we've really picked it up in these last several races and made our way up there in the points. So feels good to be up inside the top 3 with my good buddy Gino leading the points still. Regular season champion, by the way. Congrats to him. So yeah, Charlotte. Charlotte's kind of up and down for me. I've had good runs there. I've had bad runs there. I think a lot of it's going to be a matter of saving tires and staying out of the wall. If you can do those two things, then you're going to be in a good spot. So definitely probably going to need to practice some for that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think this is going to be a fun playoffs.
Going to be a lot of fun in 1 week time when we kick off that run for the title at Homestead and Miami Speedway in mid-March. But Hayes, on behalf of our team here at the KBueno Racing Network, congratulations on this podium finish. Before we let you go, though, anybody you want to thank?
Yeah, for sure. I just got to thank my parents, first of all, for cheering me on and watching me drive fake race cars for the last 3 years. I got to thank, and just my whole family in general and all my friends that support me. My whole team at both Jesus Take the Wheel Racing and Maverick Motorsports. Glad to have them all as teammates. Everybody at WORC for putting this awesome meet together. You guys for putting on these awesome broadcasts that we get to go back and watch. And most of all, my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
Well, we appreciate the time, Hayes. Again, congratulations on the third place finish in the Myrtle Beach 150. We'll see you playoff bound at Charlotte in 1 week time.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
That is Hayes Booth in the 03, arguably the most beat-up car all race long that we've seen, but he still manages a podium finish. We'll talk to one more driver before we conclude our coverage here on the KBueno Racing Network, and that will be with the driver of the 82. Our top three all make the playoffs. The 82, Sky McGuirk, despite all of his attempts, unfortunately comes home 3 points short of the top 14. And Sky, we know you gave it your all. Started on pole, you led a bunch of laps, but what did you feel went wrong in that last half of the race?
I'm sorry, I've been sick the last few weeks. I'm just not seeing points. Yeah, that I don't know. I'm 50-50 if I should pit, should not pit, but I don't know. It's just one of those situations where I was kind of worried about my tires, but then also just feeling the car and all that stuff. I knew that points was number one thing I was trying to go for. Of course, got the pole, I tried to have fastest lap, which I think I did. I just did everything that I can to make it, and I guess I just wasn't able to do in the end, which, I mean, that's racing. You can't make every playoff every season. I mean, I'm still a rookie this season, so, and I'm proud of what I've been able to do this season so far, as in just trying to be consistent. It's just the end of the season I've had fall off recently in pace. But now that I know I don't have to worry about playoffs, my only goal now is just to win as many races as I can during this playoff stretch, and hopefully show that even though I didn't make the playoffs, I could still run for wins and do what I can. So
I definitely agree with you there. A huge statement as a rookie driver, nonetheless, despite missing the playoffs by that much. And we know that Charlotte's up next, a 1.5-mile track. We've seen you perform quite well. We've seen some great finishes out of you, some great runs on those tracks. What do you expect from that track specifically, and what do you think you're going to try to do to get the checkered flag there?
Just be consistent, I guess, is one way to put it. That's kind of my motto in everything that I run, and just try to be consistent. I mean, I'm trying to be consistent on here to run up front. I'm trying to be consistent on the GT3 series that the league runs in. I'm leading the points in that, trying to win championship there. So unfortunately, I can't go for double championships in the league, but like I said, I think just for this coming race at the 1.5 miles, like I said, I feel like that's where I'm best. That's 1.5 miles. Just try to be consistent, limit mistakes, like on pit road. That seems to be where I've been struggling. The reason why I haven't had good finishes is where I just mess up on pit road or just mess up on the field strategy and run out of field at the end. So just clear up those mistakes. And yeah, I think we have a good chance to win next week.
Well, a great finish nonetheless. P5 here from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Sky, before we let you go and send you off to Charlotte Motor Speedway 1 week from tonight, anybody you want to thank in particular for the race?
Thank Maverick Motorsports for me running for them, giving me a car to run. Thankful for them. Also, I want to say good luck to my two other fellow teammates of Gino and Hayes. I know for a fact Gino, of course, coming back, trying to be redemption from him last year being the Final Four. Hayes also running really good. Both of them, both good buddies of mine, but as well as I want them both to do well. So as much as I want to win, I also want them to win, and hopefully one of them can take home the championship from Maverick Motorsports. But yeah.
Well, nonetheless, Guy, we certainly appreciate the time. We'll see you at Charlotte in 1 week time. But again, I know it was definitely a tough break there, but still a fantastic rookie season put together. We'll see you at Charlotte in 1 week time. Congratulations on the P5.
All right, thank you for having this great broadcast that we're able to watch. Been loving every one of these broadcasts to watch.
Definitely appreciate the kind words there from Sky McWork, but unfortunately he falls short of the top 14. He will not race for a WORC Dynamo Designs National Series Championship. Of course, he's a rookie driver. He'll be around for more seasons to come. We know how fast he was since the drop of the green at Daytona, so definitely a lot of potential that's still untapped on behalf of the number 82 of McGurk, who led a lot of laps tonight, and very talented driver, and definitely did fight with some of the tight ends this evening. Unfortunately, came up just short. We do have official word from league owner Brayson Collins. We have everything statted out. We've got all the point standings listed for you, and we officially know who the top 14 will be, who will make the championship playoff run, going to Homestead Miami Speedway all the way to the end. And of course, that will start at Charlotte 1 week from tonight. Gino Mero, who had held the points lead for the past couple of weeks, that has not changed. He will have the points lead with a 1 point buffer over Dimitri Mundros in second at 1,007 points. Garrett White will be tied. He is in third. Josh Patterson, Austin Dawn, Hayes Booth, your top 6 in points. John Conazzaro, Timmy Spatz, and Clayne Ramstead. By the time we get to next week's race at Charlotte, they'll be the drivers near around the bubble. They cut down to the top 9 by the second round. Then goes Ryan Martin, Caden Rife, Joe Berge, Brayson Collins, and the last driver to enter the playoffs in the top 14, James Bomar. Everybody from Martin on back will be underneath the cut line going into Charlotte next week. Going to try to get into the round of 9, and obviously with that big goal of getting to the championship 4 down in South Florida. Well, a big race from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. It took us a couple of green-white checkered attempts. We exhausted all of them, and it is Garrett White taking away career win number 6 as we head to Charlotte, and as White looks to get back to the Championship 4. So for Brayson Collins and everybody at the World Online Racing Championship, for Charlie Beyer, Keelan Belsha, Francisco Bacallao at the KBueno Racing Network, and on behalf of myself in the broadcast booth, my name is Kenneth Bueno, saying so long and good night from the Myrtle Beach 150. Congratulations to the 26 of Garrett White. We will see you for playoff racing 1 week from this evening from the home of NASCAR, Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Hi.